Pinot Noir, also known in the wine industry as Pét-Nat, which makes it much easier to say in American. While Pét-Nats may be all the rave these days, I'm not here to share with you what a Pét-Nat be. What a Pét-Nat is. There are a myriad of other YouTube videos for that. Hey everyone, Tristan here with Que Sera Sera, sharing some wine info with the boutique wine focus. I'm here to talk about how two different wines can be made from the exact same grapes, harvested and crushed on the same day, made by the same winemaker. It's a lot of sames. Today, I'm drinking two wines on the job. Double-fisted. And don't call me double-fisting Tristan for nothing. Got a Pinot Noir Rosé in one hand and a Pinot Noir Pét-Nat Rosé in the other. Both made by Rockets Red Wines. The owner and winemaker of Rockets Red Wines is Jason Merganoff, a retired U.S. Air Force veteran. America's finest ingenuity was used to make these wines, as Jason was creative enough to make two different wines using the limited resources that he has as a boutique winemaker. I'll let him share how he made these wines.
The wine came into our facility, we crushed it, pressed it, and juiced it, and it sat to cold soak for about 2 days. And then after that, I split the wine into two separate tanks to do two different processes.
Once the juice was split, one portion was used to make the rosé, using the traditional method of making a dry, non-sparkling wine. The juice finished fermenting, it was aged, and then bottled. The rest was used to make this Pét-Nat, as Jason can best describe.
The second, for the sparkling, was a native fermentation. I didn't add any commercial yeast whatsoever. I let the native yeast that was on the grapes in the field take over and do that fermentation.
A huge difference with the Pét-Nat is that natural native yeast was used to ferment the grape juice into wine, not commercially available yeast. Many don't realize this, but the strain of the yeast used to ferment wine plays a critical role in the development of the wine's aromas and flavors. Using a native versus an off-the-shelf yeast can result in a different wine. The second major difference is that the Pét-Nat wasn't finished fermenting when it was bottled. During fermentation, the yeast eats the sugars in the grape juice, creating three things: heat, alcohol, and carbon dioxide. By bottling the fermenting grape juice, the wine is able to create naturally sparkling or bubbly wine because of the carbon dioxide. It's got nowhere to go. Hence the name Pinot Noir, French for naturally sparkling. Ooh. Ooh. Because the wine is already bottled, it doesn't filter, so it's a little cloudier, and there's deposits at the bottom of the bottle. These are actually dead yeast cells known as lees, and they add their own flavor to the wine. You ain't gonna find that in the Pinot Noir Rosé, because the wine was filtered prior to bottling, creating a clearer wine. Another difference between the two wines, no sulfur was added to the Pét-Nat. Whatever sulfites are in there are naturally occurring. In the Pinot Noir Rosé, a minimal amount of sulfur was added during the winemaking process to prevent microbial growth and oxidation.
And what's really cool is seeing these two completely different wines, fermented two different ways, make completely different wines, but they started out as exactly the same grapes when they came out of the field on the same day.
So how do all these things affect the final product of the wine? How do they affect the wine's aromas and flavors? The still rosé is going to have primary aromas and flavors consisting mainly of fruit notes, whereas the Pét-Nat is going to have primary and secondary aromas and flavors. Because the Pét-Nat finished its fermentation in the bottle, the secondary aromas and flavors are going to come from the lees. These can include biscuit, pastry, bread, toasted bread, bread dough, cheese, and yogurt aromas and flavors. Because these wines are relatively young and they come from the 2020 vintage, I wouldn't expect them to have any tertiary aromas and flavors, which come from bottle aging. For the Pét-Nat, picking up some notes of aromas of watermelon, fresh strawberry, red cherry, toast, and I want to say Dubliner cheese, so cheese. This Dubliner Irish cheese comes to mind. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my channel to follow along with my wine adventures. That's a very unique note. This comes to my mind. For the Pinot Noir Rosé, watermelon, some strawberry, maybe some red cherry as well, just like the Pét-Nat. Simple, easy, refreshing for a day out on the lawn like today. So there you have it. A side-by-side comparison of how boutique wines can be made using different winemaking decisions. There are plenty of steps in the winemaking process that can affect a wine, from the vineyard all the way to bottling. This experiment by Rocket's Red Wines allows us to eliminate some of the variables and appreciate some of the winemaking decisions. I hope you enjoyed this video on how winemaking decisions can impact the wines that we drink. If you'd like to taste the differences yourself, there's a link in the description on where you can buy the wines. But act quick, only 20 cases of the Pét-Nat were made. If you aren't able to get the wines in time, don't worry. There are plenty of unique and boutique wines out there. So go out, try something new. It's not an adventure if there's no discovery. Until next time, cheers.